what is your name and what do you do?
My name's William Tempest and I'm a women's wear fashion designer.
So if you could just start and take us through your journey of how you've got to where you are today.
So I first knew that I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was about 15, 16. And it was when I was doing my GCSEs and I decided to do a fashion project rather than an art project. And it was sort of very much inspired by a book written by Colin McDowell on John Galliano, and all the photos were taken by Tim Walker. I just found it so sort of inspirational and all these sort of amazing fashion images. And I just thought, I just knew there and then that's when I want to be a fashion designer.
Brilliant. Take us through your everyday kind of life, like how does your day unfold?
So my sort of day starts, I wake up I try and get up quite early, not most days. And then I'm quite a fitness freak as well. So a few years ago I was quite ill, so I've tried to be quite healthy. So I'll probably go to the gym, have a decent breakfast, go to work, go to my studio. Usually there's a lot of emails, so I'll try and sort those out quite early on. Try and get my team to sort of, who's working on this project, who's working on that dress, any sort of questions like that. And then after that sort of initial few hours, it sort of, dies down a bit. Everyone sort of knows what they're doing. I might have sort of the occasional dress fitting, the occasional sort of interview to sort of write out or to do over the phone, occasional meeting to go to or person to fit. And then usually I'll sort of go back home, have some dinner and sort of relax.
What struck me when you were talking earlier on was actually that you trademarked your name at 18 and you have your own business now. It sounds to me you've always been like really disciplined and almost really focused, and that you've always wanted to have your own thing going on. I think that's quite poignant to trademark your name at 18.
Yeah, definitely. Like I sort of look back now and think, I'm so glad that I trademarked my name back then, because ever since then I've worked with different investors and it could have gone so wrong if someone else had owned my name. And all the time I get sort of trademark people contacting me from China or, different countries in the world where I've not sort of protected it yet. And, you have to sort of take it legally and do a legal case to sort of stop that process happening. So it's definitely been sort of beneficial for me to do that. And I think that the whole sort of, the reason that I did it is I'm quite a structured person, and I always sort of say that I'm probably as much a business person as well as I am a fashion person. And that's not to say that I don't, enjoy design and my creative process, but I also enjoy, I guess, that being appreciated, and the way to do that for me is to sort of get it out there and for people to enjoy it, and that's sort of where the business side comes in.
And also, I think what's really interesting is how you talk about Colin McDowell's book, which I think for a lot of like young people interested in fashion, Colin McDowell's one of these people who really can start that whole thing for you. And then also he ties into the whole fashion fringe thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you found that certain people have like switched up and moved your whole kind of journey along as you've...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw the book that Colin wrote when I was 16, and then I did Fashion Fringe, which was set up by Colin McDowell, and obviously he's been a champion of mine, and I know him, and so that was kind of an amazing thing to come true, that I get to meet Colin McDowell, and he likes my work, and it's definitely those key figures that you'll come across throughout your career that can really sort of support you and point you in the right direction. And it's that sort of thing about, I guess, focusing your brand and what is William Tempest, what is a William Tempest dress. And as a designer, sometimes it can get quite clouded, like you're so sort of absorbed in the creative process that you need someone with fresh eyes to come along that understands that, to say, don't do this instead, or maybe you can meet this person or speak to this store because it might be a good fit, because you need that sort of fresh vision and fresh sort of eyes to sort of guide you. So
what is your creative process? Where do you begin? When you, after that the time one collection finishes and that very first day starting off a new collection? What's...
Yeah, so that's probably like the most exciting time because you could literally do whatever you want. And so usually after I've done a show or a big event, I like to take a week off and so I sort of book a holiday or something. But I like to sort of tie that into something that sort of goes towards the next collection. So I was saying that I sort of like to travel a lot. So I might go to Africa or Thailand or Mauritius or somewhere. And so I sort of take a lot of photos. I really love to turn my own photos into print designs and to get inspired by the colours around the world. Because I think if you're sort of in one place all the time or just in London all the time, things can get to seem quite similar and you start to appreciate things slightly less than if you see it as, the first time that you've seen something. So I really love that whole travel sort of aspect to it. And then once I've got that whole sort of concept, then I like to sort of start to play with fabrics and be inspired by the colours and textures that I've seen, translate that into fabric, and then really go like back and forth from stand to sketch, back to the stand. And it's that whole like sort of sculptural thing that I love. Like a lot of my patterns, if you actually saw the dress, you'd see how sort of, I guess, sort of creatively that it's cut and how there's lots of folds. And even if it's a really simple dress, it can be something that's such a simple detail that can really make it. And I think that's what defines my style, is something that's very wearable, but beautifully made and finished, and that it might just have that twist to it that really sort of makes it something that people sort of desire and, a real sensual experience to put the garment on.
I think that at Ravensbourne, they really encourage this entrepreneurial flair. And obviously, you have your own design, high-end design business. Mm-hmm. How did that come about? The process from graduating through to starting your own label.
Yeah. So when I graduated, I guess I was quite fortunate because I was one of the graduates that got the attention and the press that goes in all the newspapers and stuff. And I think that obviously led to my first backers being interested in me. I think it's all about confidence as well, because having that happen to me and those people approach me, even though ultimately I didn't end up working with them, it gave me the confidence to think that people do appreciate
this. Could happen kind of thing.
Exactly, and that it could happen, and it gave me the confidence that I didn't need to just go and work for another designer, that I could just start this myself and people would respond to it. And I think the more that you go in the direction that you want confidently, that the more it sort of attracts, and the bigger that it grows.
Are there any specific things that you think are really signature to your brand and that encapsulate the William Tempest woman? Yeah,
I mean, I definitely say my style is glamorous. But I was saying in my talk before that it's definitely not glitzy. Like I look at a lot of architecture, I look at a lot of sculpture and shape. That's really what I'm about, I think, is shape. And also what I was saying about the experience of the dress, like that's for me what really defines a luxury product. And as a small business making, I'm not a huge global brand. I'm just a British designer. That really allows me to make that dress and have that experience, and it ends up having that luxury sort of price point. So I definitely say shape is really what defines me as a designer.
And do you think, being a graduate in London, do you think you could have achieved what you've achieved now had you graduated in another city? I think that London is synonymous with really getting behind things like Vox, Fashion Scout or Fashion Fringe, really push.
Yeah, I mean,
people.
Being in London definitely helps. But that's not to say that if you graduate from a university somewhere else in the country that you can't achieve things.
Yeah, sure, of course.
It's just about the way that you think of it. And, if you're, up in Leeds or in Northampton or in Manchester.
I suppose I mean like the British fashion scene, if you like, because I know that you mentioned earlier your tutor Hazel Robinson, who House of Jazz, and I know she went through the whole Fashion East the whole fashionista support system, whether that kind of inspired you, that you then had the confidence that you knew there was help available within London, the UK, that you could progress with building your own brand.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I the first day at LCF, like we had one of the tutors, Colin. He told us all about Fashion Fringe. That's the first time I'd heard about it, and then ultimately I ended up going through the Fashion Fringe program. And I guess being based in London is the advantage, because that's where a lot of the fashion industry is in the UK. But for students that aren't, in London, they can still think about things creatively, and they can come for the summer for internship, or they can figure things out so that they can still make it work. So it's not to say that you can't achieve if you're not in London, but definitely at some point you're going to have to come to London for meetings and to meet people, just to progress your career like that. So,
William Tempest, I'd like to thank you on behalf of Ravensbourne for coming this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.